Picture the one person in your camp everyone trusted without question. Not the strongest, not the loudest. The one who always shared first, always showed up, always kept their word. Now picture that same person in the middle of the night taking food meant for the children and slipping away before sunrise. No stranger did this. No enemy. Someone who slept 12 feet from your fire for 6 years did this. When the camp woke up and understood what happened, nobody reached for a weapon. What they did instead is stranger and far more permanent. Here is something your brain already knows, even if you've never said it out loud. Betrayal by a stranger barely registers. A scammer, a con artist, someone you never trusted anyway. It stings, but it doesn't wound. Betrayal by someone inside your circle is different. Neuroscientists have put people in brain scanners, told them stories of being betrayed by someone close, and watched the same regions light up that activate during physical pain. Not similar regions, the same ones. Your ancestors didn't need a scanner to know that. They built an entire system around it. Sharing wasn't a nicety in a camp like this. It was infrastructure. Every piece of meat handed over, every turn taken watching the children was a deposit into an account the whole group depended on. Betrayal, hoarding, lying, taking without giving back, wasn't rude. It was withdrawing from an account you never paid into. So what happened when someone inside the circle broke it? It depended on how badly. Start small. A man who bragged too much about a good hunt. A woman who took a little more than her share at the fire. Someone getting lazy, letting others carry the work. This wasn't betrayal yet, but it was the beginning of it. The first crack. The moment someone started acting like the rules didn't apply to them. The correction was almost never direct. Anthropologist Richard Lee once brought a kung hunting band the biggest, fattest ox he could find as a Christmas gift. The camp mocked it for weeks. Too skinny, too old, a waste of everyone's time. Lee was confused. He'd checked the ox himself. It was a great animal. An old man finally explained it to him. When a hunter brings home a big kill, the camp doesn't celebrate. They mock it. The bigger the kill, the harder they mock. That is how a camp keeps a good hunter from deciding he's better than everyone else. Every joke, every complaint, every whispered story, a tiny tool for keeping people equal before the crack became a fracture. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm studied this pattern across dozens of unrelated hunter-gatherer societies and found the same architecture everywhere. He called it a reverse dominance hierarchy, a system built deliberately to keep any one person from rising above the group. Mockery was step one. It was cheap, it was constant, and it worked most of the time. We built laws to punish people after the damage is done. They built ridicule to stop the damage before it started. Even among the Hadza today, one of the last groups still living something close to this life, conflicts happen constantly. Affairs, jealousy, stolen tools, grudges that flare up out of nowhere. These people are not saints. They are exactly as human as you are. What's different is what happened next. Not every betrayal stayed small, and when it didn't, the camp had another option, one with no equivalent in your world. If you couldn't stand someone, if a grudge had gotten too hot, or a promise had been broken once too often, you could simply leave, pack everything you owned, it fit in one bag, and walk to the next camp. The Kung called this voting with your feet. No trial, no confrontation. You removed yourself from the wound, let the heat cool for a few weeks, and came back once it had. This wasn't punishment, it was pressure release, built into a world with nowhere permanent to be angry. Most modern grudges don't have that option. You cannot vote with your feet on a mortgage. Your ancestors could vote with their feet on almost anything. But some betrayals didn't cool down. They repeated. A man who took more than his share once could be mocked back into line. A man who did it every week, who lied every time he was caught, who could not be relied on again and again. That man moved into a different category entirely. This is the pattern anthropologists have documented in unrelated cultures on nearly every continent. The same graduated response to the same problem, discovered independently over and over, long before anyone could compare notes. The whispers about him didn't stay inside the camp. They traveled to every camp within a day's walk. By the time he tried to start over somewhere new, his reputation had already arrived first, and eventually, no camp would have him. This was the harshest punishment a hunter-gatherer world could deliver. Worse, in most accounts, than violence itself. Not prison. Not exile to a cell. Exclusion. From every fire, every meal, every hand that used to reach out to help you. You were known everywhere by everyone who mattered, and now everyone who mattered had turned away. For the worst cases, the ones anthropologists studying dozens of unrelated cultures kept finding again and again, there was one final option. Chronic betrayal, repeated theft, violence used to silence anyone who pushed back. In band societies studied across the world, groups sometimes killed their own. Not strangers, not enemies, but members who had become too dangerous to keep alive inside the circle. This wasn't rage. It wasn't a mob losing control. It was usually planned, discussed, agreed on by the group beforehand. beforehand. Anthropologists studying these decisions found they were rarely secretive. The reasons were laid out openly, sometimes for days before anyone acted. This was the closest thing hunter-gatherers had to a jury, except the entire camp sat on it, and the verdict, once reached, was final. One person who could not be trusted was not a social problem. In a group where a bad hunt meant everyone went hungry and a sick child needed 3 adults to stay alive, an untrustworthy member was an existential threat. That system is still running inside you. The specific, gut-deep rage you feel toward a friend who lied to you, a rage a stranger's lie could never produce. That's not an overreaction. That's an ancient alarm, built for a world where the person betraying you could get you killed, still firing at full strength over a much smaller stake. Think about the last time a coworker took credit for your idea, or a partner lied about something small. The reaction wasn't proportional to the actual damage. It rarely is. That's because the alarm going off in you wasn't built for a stolen idea or a small lie. It was built for a stolen ration. In a group of 30, where the wrong kind of person left unchecked could get everyone killed. The instinct to talk about someone behind their back before confronting them directly. The urge to simply leave a room, a relationship, a job, rather than have it out. The particular cold form of anger reserved only for people who were supposed to be on your side. None of that was taught to you. It came from 300,000 years of your ancestors managing betrayal without a single court, a single jail cell, or a single law. You are the descendants of the ones who got this calibration right. The ones who mocked early, excluded when they had to, and reserved the harshest response for the moments that actually threatened everyone's survival. Go back to that camp. The person who took the food is already gone. By morning, everyone knows. Nobody has to be told twice. The whispers have already started, quietly moving from fire to fire, building the case that will follow that person for the rest of their life. Nobody needed a trial. The camp already knows exactly who can be trusted and who can't, because it has been keeping score on everyone, silently, for years. That feeling you get when someone close to you crosses a line, the one that feels bigger than the situation deserves, isn't broken. It's 300,000 years old, and it built the species that's still using it.